comparing Hugh Hefner to Marilyn Monroe and saying that they are both products of the sexual revolution. Hugh Hefner, in the way that women's sexuality became a commodity that you could sell in respectable company, right? Because before, it was certainly available for sale, but only in the seediest of places. Whereas Playboy made it so that women's sexuality became a mainstream commodity. On the other hand, we have Marilyn Monroe, who, in the same way, also used female sexuality to build her fame in a way that wasn't really possible previously, while also being accepted in culture. And the author suggests that both of their outcomes were quite negative. And because they were quite negative, feminism has meant that men end up in a worse situation than they used to, and women also end up in a worse situation than they used to. However, from my perspective, I didn't really agree with this comparison that much, because when you look at Marilyn Monroe, she never had a stable relationship and ultimately died, or rather killed herself with prescription drugs because she was depressed and unhappy. And she tries to paint Hugh Hefner as being this sad old man who basically only had these women around him because of his money. But I mean, hey, the fact is there are plenty of guys that's their dream scenario. Now, yeah, there's all these arguments about it'd be nice if, he had women that really cared about him and blah, blah, blah. Sure, okay, fine. But I think, compared to a lot of men who end up old and alone with nobody at all, they would probably take the not having had sex in, 30 or 40 years, they would take Hugh Hefner's life for sure. Whereas I don't think most women would look for the ultimate outcome of Marilyn Monroe. And so while she tries to highlight this dynamic as being the two sort of negative outcomes, you can see here from that feminism arguably worked out far less well, at least in these examples, for women.